I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. Hang on. Welcome to the September 10th, 2024 Huntington Beach Planning Commission meeting. While the Planning Commission welcomes public involvement in free speech, it rejects comments from anyone that are discriminatory, defamatory, or otherwise not protected speech. Those comments will not inform nor be considered by the Planning Commission and may be cause for the chair to interrupt the speaker. Such comments will not be consented to or otherwise adopted by the Planning Commission in its discussions and findings for any matter tonight. Thank you. Could everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner Wood will lead us.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Adam,
Present.
Commissioner Pellman, Vice Chair Kennedy,
Present.
Chair Twining,
Here.
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Here.
Commissioner Acosta-Galvan is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comments? Now's the time for public comments for items that are not on the agenda this evening. Do we have any public comments?
We have one speaker that does look like she signed up for both public comments and public hearings. Ann Palmer, did you wish to make a public comment on an item that is not on the agenda?
She says no.
Okay, then we have none.
All right. Next are the public hearing items. We're going to, 23007's been continued at the request of the applicant. However, if there are people here that wish to speak tonight, we will go ahead and hear you. Is there any speakers for 23007?
Ann Palmer is signed up to speak for that item.
I've been for both, so I'll speak them together after we get started.
Okay. That's fine. Okay. That's okay. You're forgiven. Planning commissioners, please state your disclosures regarding this item. We'll start with Commissioner Pellman.
Are we talking about 23-007? Or are we moving on to the next item?
That one.
I have no disclosures.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Again, are we talking about the first one that was removed or the one that's being heard?
I believe,
Chair, if you want, we can just have a motion to continue it.
okay, how about that? How about I make a motion to continue item 23007? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
And just to be clear, we're continuing it a date certain, which is the next meeting on September 24th.
yes, sir.
Regarding oh, sorry. It's a vote.
Commissioner Pellman?
It's not working. Yes.
Okay. We have all ayes. Commissioner Costa Galvan is absent. Motion
Okay.
carries.
Thank you. Okay, let's just do all our disclosures right now. Commissioner Pellman?
I was called by the developers, and that's all. Nothing else. Thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy?
I met with community development yesterday and met with some residents yesterday as well.
I met with community development yesterday, met with some residents yesterday, and I spoke with the developer this morning. Commissioner.
I had met with staff last week. I met with a homeowner last week and also had conversations with the representative of the applicant.
I met with, spoke about the project with Councilmember Dan Kalmick and former Planning Commissioner Mark Bixby and a few residents around the area.
And I met with city staff and LSA together last Friday.
Thank you. Ricky?
Yes, so Senior Planner Hayden Beckman will be giving the presentation on item number 2.
Thank you.
If I hadn't closed the window, we'd be started. Excuse me for one moment.
Ricky, that screen, Oscar and I can't see because of that screen that's there.
Oh,
And me.
okay, give us one moment. We'll move that. Okay, thank you, and good evening, Chair and Commissioners. We're here this evening to present a proposed project referred to as the Bolsa Chica Senior Care Community Project. My name is Hayden Beckman, Project Planner, and following staff's presentation, the applicant and their team will provide additional details about the existing site, project vision, and design, after which we'll open for comments and questions. To begin, the project request includes 5 applications: a general plan amendment, a zoning map amendment, a zoning text amendment, conditional use permit, and a revised final environmental impact report, and I'll further describe those shortly. Before we dive into the entitlement requests, I'd like to introduce the project site. The site is located at the southwest corner of Warner and Bolsa Chica Street, Warner Avenue and Bolsa Chica Street. The project site includes 2 parcels that combine for just over 3 acres in gross lot size. The site is outlined here in yellow and is currently developed with 1 2-story and 1 3-story commercial buildings totaling approximately 55,000 square feet of existing commercial and retail space that would be removed upon implementation. Across Warner Avenue to the north are a Walgreens and CVS pharmacy on opposite corners of Bolsa Chica, and across Bolsa Chica to the east is the existing Harbor Tire Pros at the corner and single-family residential farther south. The project site shares its southern property line with an existing Frontier Communications office building, and directly west are the Monticello residential apartments. The first request is conditional use permit 21024, and it is a request to demolish 55,000 square feet of existing commercial space and construct a new 4-story, approximately 215,000 square foot convalescent facility with on-site alcohol sales and consumption at a maximum overall height of 49.5 feet, consisting of 159 total units, subterranean parking garage, and associated hardscape and landscape improvements on a property with an existing 3-foot grade differential. Grade differential exceeding 3 feet. There are 4 other entitlement requests that complete the proposed project's applications. The general plan amendment request is one that would modify the existing general plan designation of commercial general on the subject site. And shown here is the existing designations per the general plan land use map and the surrounding areas. And the project would amend that land use map and change the designation from CG to mixed use with a specific plan overlay that provides for both residential and commercial uses on the same site. Both the commercial general and mixed use designations are compatible with the land uses and development pattern of the surrounding area. An additional request is the zoning map amendment. The project site is currently designated on the zoning map as CG Commercial General. Also shown here are the surrounding land uses. The project includes a request for the zoning map amendment to modify the zoning map designation from CG to the Bolsa Chica Senior Care Community Specific Plan, which will be abbreviated as SP19, as it would constitute the 19th specific plan should it be adopted by the City Council. This zoning map amendment request would, via designating the site for a new specific plan, provide for the orderly development of the site to ultimately create a cohesive senior care facility. Adoption of the zoning map amendment will be in conformity with public convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice because the specific plan designation will implement the proposed general plan land use designations that includes a specific plan overlay. The request for a zoning text amendment will establish the Bolsa Chica Senior Care Community Specific Plan and serve as the zoning ordinance for the subject site. The specific plan will be supplemented by the Huntington Beach Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance for provisions that are not addressed or customized within the specific plan. The draft specific plan has been modified to reflect the revised project layout through reduced height, revised on-site circulation and parking layout, and the elimination of independent living units. Finally, the final request is a revised final environmental impact report. The revised draft EIR included modifications, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide, let me back up. Included modifications to the original project that warranted new analysis. The revised draft EIR provides a comparison of the original project and the revised project. The revised draft EIR was recirculated for public comment, and that was available for a 60-day public review period between June 20th and August 19th of this year. And during that time, 33 comments were received. Those comments were reviewed, noted, and a response to comments was included as part of the final EIR. The final EIR and the response to comments was also posted online for public review prior to this hearing. And the revised final EIR includes that RTC and any errata. The final EIR concludes that the environmental impacts as a result of the project implementation would not result in significant unavoidable adverse impacts. All significant environmental impacts which can be feasibly mitigated or avoided have been mitigated or avoided through the incorporation of project design features, standard code requirements, and mitigation measures. Chapter 4 specifically of the draft EIR includes proposed mitigation measures for those potentially significant impacts in the areas of cultural resources, geology and soils, and tribal cultural resources. And the mitigation measures will ensure that no significant adverse impacts on the environment would occur. A mitigation monitoring and reporting program is included as attachment number 13 and has been incorporated into the conditions of approval for this project. Now I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the original project and the revised project. The original project that was presented to the Planning Commission in 2023 was a request to demolish the existing 55,000 square feet of commercial and construct a 5-story, 65-foot high convalescent facility with a total of 202 units. Those units were broken up into 28 memory care units, 72 assisted living units, and 102 independent living units. The original project included a subterranean parking garage with 189 parking spaces. That also included, the facility included on-site indoor and outdoor amenities and dining facilities with alcohol service, associated hardscape and landscape improvements on a site with greater than 3-foot grade differential, and the original project included over 25,000 cubic yards of excavation. By comparison, the revised project will still result in the demolition and removal of the existing commercial square footage. This revised project will construct a new 4-story, 49.5-foot tall convalescent facility with 159 units. The 159 units are broken into 25 memory care and 134 assisted living units. There will not be independent living units as a part of the revised proposed project. There will be a subterranean parking garage that will accommodate 82 spaces. The entirety of the project will provide 104 in total. The proposed facility does include on-site indoor and outdoor amenities with dining facilities and alcohol service, plus associated hardscape and landscape improvements on the existing site with more than 3-foot grade differential, but only involves 12,500 cubic yards of excavation. I make that note because that is no longer a request required for the conditional use permit, so that has been removed from the Planning Commission's review. Here are some elevations looking north along Warner Avenue on top, and then looking east, the Bolsa Chica Street facade on the bottom. These are the facades and the elevations of the original project. And here are the facades for the revised project, the same views. On top, we have the north elevation facing Warner Avenue. On the bottom, we have the east elevation facing Bolsa Chica Street. This section drawing helps demonstrate the revised project's overall height. First, maximum overall building height includes the occupied space and mass of the building that will be 49.5 feet, indicated here by the red horizontal line. The roof line measures exactly 49.5 feet from the datum point as required by code. Next, the specific plan would also allow an additional 4 feet of height for parapet walls to screen rooftop mechanical equipment, which is the same requirement as the zoning code. That's indicated here in the green. The proposed project would include a 3.5-foot high parapet wall to provide screening and has been designed to blend in with the colors and materials of the 4th floor. The specific plan also makes the same accommodation of an additional 10 feet of height that enables a single roof access way that measures 59.5 feet, indicated here in purple, and that is also the same requirement in the zoning code. So therefore, the proposed project would not include any portion of the primary habitable building area that exceeds 49.5 feet. By comparison, the existing maximum height in the commercial general zone is 50 feet. The proposed overall height will also accommodate a custom design of the senior care community, wherein each floor is specifically designed to accommodate an adequate level of comfort and access for each type of living space. Staff has evaluated the proposed height of the project and finds that the height differential, when compared to the maximum development standards of the CG zone, to be compatible, in that the project also provides an upper story setback to offset the primary massing of the 4th floor. As mentioned previously, the project provides a total of 104 parking spaces for both residents, staff, and visitors. Depicted here is the single-level subterranean parking garage that will be constructed beneath the senior care community. It will provide 82 parking spaces, including required disabled and cleaner vehicle parking. The subterranean garage provides 82, and the remainder of the vehicle spaces will be provided on grade, 18 along the south-facing facade, and 4 spaces within the porte cochere fronting Bolsa Chica Street. There will be a total of 3 stairway access points from the parking garage and 2 elevators. One of the elevators will be a dedicated service elevator. Parking demand for the project was analyzed in a project-specific parking study that compared the zoning code's parking calculation with current industry standards and peak demand. Current code would require approximately 118 spaces, whereas a parking study conservatively estimates that the peak demand would not exceed 93 spaces. To provide flexibility for the operation of the community, the specific plan requires 104 parking spaces. Generally, a senior living land use does not generate demand equal to that of either a residential or a commercial project. As such, parking demand is reduced as our daily trip estimates for evaluating the potential for traffic or transportation impacts. Of equal importance is access to and around the site. The proposed facility will operate and be staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to accommodate the needs of its residents, which has been designed to be provided primarily on site. The revised project has been modified to improve vehicular access to the site and provide more emergency vehicle access. A passenger drop-off area with drive-through access is provided off Bolsa Chica and includes loading and short-term parking spaces. All other vehicle access is provided at the southernmost frontage of Bolsa Chica with a two-way drive aisle and surface parking, as well as access to a two-way ramp to the subterranean parking garage. Any access beyond the last surface parking space will be limited to emergency and service vehicles only, with one-way traffic directed back north towards Warner and a right-hand turn-only exit from the site. At this time, the Planning Commission may consider 3 actions as depicted in the staff report. The first action would be to recommend certification of the draft final EIR by approving a resolution and forwarding to City Council, as well as a recommendation of approval for the general plan amendment, zoning map amendment, zoning text amendment, and take action to approve the CUP. The second action option would be to deny the applications with findings for denial. And the third option would be to continue the applications and direct staff accordingly. That concludes staff's presentation at this time, and staff, as well as the city's CEQA consultant, are available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I just have one clarification. And this has been confusing to some of the people that have asked me in the past, that it's referred to as a convalescent home. It's really, which connotates that it's a skilled nursing facility, and it is not a skilled nursing facility. So I just want to clarify, it's not a skilled nursing facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. With no further questions, we will now open up the public hearing. Do we have any speakers tonight?
We have multiple speakers. I'm going to call you by your name. Please line up at the podiums. I will call the first half of the speakers now, and then I will call the rest later. Tom Lawless, Christopher Hilbert, Grant Russell, Jonathan Bonwit, Tom Dillman, Amory Hanson, Chase Preciado, John Villa, and Cheryl Browning. Please come down. Please make sure you state your name prior to beginning your speech.
Good evening. Turn this on? Okay. Thanks for affording us the time to give a brief presentation. We appreciate it. Again, my name is Thomas Lawless with Hines, and we have Christopher Hilbert here with Clearwater. We're going to talk a little bit more about the project. So, our main message here tonight is that the city of Huntington Beach has...
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can I just interrupt you just 1 second?
Of course.
Did we agreed to give the applicant extra time, is that correct?
If that's what the chair would like to do, yes.
Yes, I do. I think they asked for 10 or 15 minutes, and that's fine. And I'll extend, if you guys have a little bit more to say, we'll do the same with you, okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, we intend to build the best project in the city where seniors can gracefully age, engage in lifelong enrichment, and overcome social isolation closer to their friends and family. We also listen to the community's concerns and decrease the size of the project by 30%, which is much closer to being in line with the existing zoning regulations. So how did we get here? This project is 4 years in the making. We were here in front of you just over a year ago for Planning Commission, and we then proceeded to City Council, as you all know, and received the recommendation to engage the community more. We did that, and that required us to go back to the drawing board and completely redesign the project. This has been a long process, and California's regulatory environment is difficult, and the CEQA process is difficult. And the redesign to get from 5 to 4 was difficult, and we'll talk more about what changed. So we appreciate you hearing us out and us coming back here. We did host 2 open houses in December after getting in front of the City Council. And just to provide you a flavor of those events, we had 13 individuals sign in to each session. We had hosted 2 4-hour sessions. Now, not everyone signed in, and there were a handful of individuals that went to both. So roughly 25 specific individuals attended these events, and they shared their feedback with us. And believe it or not, some did provide positive feedback and a desire to potentially live in the community at some point. The commentary was largely localized to the specifically planned Brightwater community. These are the key changes that came from those community engagement sessions, and apologies as I walk through these because they're really important. A lot of folks were concerned about the height of the building. So we reduced the height to 49.5 feet, which is within the commercial code of 50, took off the 5th story, and reduced the square footage of the building by 32%. We also heard concerns that the setbacks were insufficient. Now, while they conformed to code, we increased those significantly. There were also a number of folks that were concerned that the independent living units would operate as quasi-apartments. Now, while that is not at all the intent of independent living in these communities, we understood the feedback and we removed 102 independent living units. Now, we actually did receive some feedback from individuals who were supportive of the project and supportive of living in an independent living unit. And so we do feel there's been a diminution of the project with those lost, but we understand that that was the community's opinion. And so now the average age will be approximately 85, and everyone will be receiving services in the building. In addition, we heard about the construction schedule taking a long time. You heard Hayden walk through the change of how we're handling the grading and excavation of the site. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but effectively, we totally redesigned how the parking structure was going to be designed and constructed, which is reducing the excavation by 80%. So as neighbors are concerned about the length of the construction schedule, as well as the potential noise and air pollution associated with excavation, that's dramatically been changed. There were also individuals who spoke about concerns about queuing of cars on Bolsa Chica. If you guys recall, our previous project had the main entry off of Bolsa Chica into our parking structure. Now we have a dedicated entry point. It is still on Bolsa Chica, but the parking garage entry is 25 feet inset to the project. So no longer will cars queue on Bolsa Chica to enter. They'll be able to enter the project and then go down into the parking garage. We've also obviously reduced the number of residents dramatically. And with the elimination of independent living units, we no longer have any residents likely that will bring cars and be looking to drive with any frequency. We also heard concerns that the large 3-bedroom units just didn't make sense for senior living. So we've effectively eliminated all of those. There's only one unit that's 2,000 square feet. We also received some concern that migratory birds in the Bolsa Chica wetlands area, that was a consideration that was reviewed in the EIR, and we've implemented bird-safe window treatments on the upper levels. So last time we came in front of you, we did talk about how a 5-story project versus a 4-story project was necessary for the economics of that construction, and I want to address that directly. When we were last before you, we had a completely different project, and the one major change, we had to basically hire a new architect and completely redesign the project. We were previously completely excavating the site and doing a subterranean parking garage. Now, as I mentioned, we're no longer doing that. A portion of the garage is actually going to be 50% elevated above grade. And that's allowing us to reduce construction costs significantly. Just to ballpark, construction costs for subterranean parking is $60,000 to $70,000 per stall. So that was a dramatic reduction of costs. Also, last time we were here, interest rates were 5%. The 10-year treasury was 5%, and inflation was still a deep concern. Those factors have also changed materially. So the construction cost environment, the interest rate environment, and a lot of hard work from our architect and team to redesign the project led us to be able to provide a 4-story option that worked. As you can see from the architecture, the visual appeal of the project from Warner and Bolsa Chica, it appears effectively as a 3-story building. That's intentional. The 4th story is dramatically set back. And so even from the street level, you can't visually see the 4th story, which was the intent. We still wanted to maintain the high quality of design and really make sure the Surf City aesthetic was maintained, and that we believe that intent is still maintained here. Okay, apologies for the detail in this slide, but again, this is really important information as to how the community feedback led to these material changes. So I want to dive into the specifics. Again, the project is 30% smaller than when we previously took it in front of you. We also conform or exceed 6 of 7 existing code requirements. You see the height was reduced by 15.5 feet over 24%. The unit count is down 22%. Our gross square footage down 32%. And on the setbacks, as I mentioned previously, to show specifically, on the south setback, which is the closest setback to the Brightwater community, and by closest I mean approximately 1,000 feet from the entry to Brightwater, we increased that setback by 36 feet. In addition, you'll see that the fourth story is setback 28 to 43 feet. You received some letters from folks in the community that suggested that the project was only slightly reduced. It's been 30% reduced, so we do not believe that is slight. Moving on. So, addressing some of the community concerns that remain, so despite all these changes, we still received a number of comment letters as part of the EIR, and we wanted to be thoughtful in addressing those comments here directly. So there was a point made that the building is still exceeding 50 feet. As Mr. Beckman walked through, that's not accurate. The building is 49.5 feet tall. The comment that was made was that the corner of Bolsa Chica and Warner is a bit lower in elevation, and that from that location, the building is taller. One, that's not how the city measures building height, and two, the height of the building at that location is 38.5 feet tall. So that argument doesn't hold. Next, and this is probably one of the most important points of the evening, the deviation from code for this project sits in the FAR component. And so why are we requesting a 10% deviation from the 1.5x FAR? I wanted to really walk through that with you. And as you guys know, FAR is effectively how much square footage we're putting on a given site. First off, unlike height, it's difficult to touch and feel FAR. And if we reduce the FAR of this project, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell from the exterior. Most of the opponents are fixated on this argument, we believe, because it's the only part of the project that doesn't conform to code. Secondly, this is a 24/7 commercial project with elderly residents who require daily services for basic life needs. It requires significant supportive areas, nurse stations, a commercial kitchen, wider hallways, more elevators, staff break areas, and of course, comfortable locations for people to congregate, given they basically don't leave the property. As you can see, the project is approximately 200,000 square feet, but only 120,000 square feet of that is devoted to units, or about 60%. A typical residential project is 80%. If you were to force this project to conform to a 1.5 FAR, that would reduce the project by about 19,000 square feet, or about 10%. But you wouldn't be able to see the difference really from the exterior, and you would just be hollowing out the middle of the project and some of the essential services. As you can see in the diagram, separate from the units and the critical infrastructure, basically the bones of the building, there's only 22,000 square feet of dining and activity space devoted for the residents. If we were to reduce the project by 19,000 square feet, the elderly would basically have just 3,000 square feet of activity space outside their unit. That's obviously not the intent to build a best-in-class project. We firmly believe that the elderly residents who live in this building 24/7, 365 days a year deserve a few places to dine, a place to relax and chat with their neighbor, a place to receive physical therapy, and yes, even a place to get their hair and nails done to enjoy a few of life's simple pleasures. Over 70% of assisted living residents are women. That's why we're trying to maintain this FAR level. So we received also comments that the shade and shadow of the project was too large. This was studied in the EIR. It showed the shade that the structure creates on the worst shady day of the year. As you can see from the diagrams, it effectively extends midway through Bolsa Chica and Warner Street. You may recall we had some residents that were concerned about shade on their driveways or the front lawns. Mr. Thenis actually attempted to demonstrate that our study was incorrect. However, his analysis was flawed. He incorrectly assumed that the fourth level was not set back. And because it is set back 28 feet from Bolsa Chica, that fourth level does not cast a shadow beyond the project. So it is simply the third level that casts a shadow. Here are some of the facts on traffic. Assisted living and memory care residents don't really drive. We all know this to be intuitively true. If you need assistance bathing or dressing, you're not likely driving a car. The project will have 24/7 staff and a shuttle service, but those trips are materially less than they use today. Also, commercial zoning permits a traffic nightmare, and our project effectively downzones the site's traffic intensity. Here we're noting that the existing code permits uses that have over 13 times the amount of trips. Again, that's existing code. Even if another developer builds half of that density, by right, the community would be worse off. Someone could come here and build a Walmart, by right, and the traffic would be a lot worse. Also, the state law currently permits circumvention of Huntington Beach's zoning code, as many are aware, and a 300-unit affordable project with no height constraint could be built here under state law. Not every developer may seek that exact intensity, but the point is the city zoning permits it. Opponents are suggesting that we should follow the existing zoning, but if one did and built office or retail as currently zoned, the effect would be much worse than this project. It's hard to imagine a better use, a quieter use than a low-traffic senior living facility. Lastly, just to address parking. The project is not underparked. Any suggestion otherwise is incorrect. In fact, the parking is higher than every Clearwater project on the West Coast, none of which have issues. Again, your 85-year-old grandmother may want to bring her car to this building and park it, but it is highly, highly unlikely that she will drive with any frequency. Ultimately, this site will be redeveloped someday, and our specific plan effectively downzones the traffic intensity to something less disruptive to the community. The reason we're using a specific plan is to accommodate roughly 19,000 square feet of additional space to ensure that the seniors have more enriching environment than eating in the same single location every day with minimal supportive services. Despite the significant project changes, we understand that there's still localized opposition to this project. We totally understand that some people will never support a 4-story building, even if you can't see the 4th story from the street level. It's the community's right to voice their concern. However, Mr. Thenis and Mr. Bonwit have circulated a copy of opposition letters that contain inaccuracies, and hopefully some of these slides have dispelled some of that information. This project has been heavily studied through effectively 2 EIRs over the course of 3 years and conforms with code in every way except for effectively 1, the FAR, and that's with good reason. Hopefully we explain that well. We hope that those facts carry the day. And with that, I want to toss it to Christopher. I apologize for talking so long because he helps run the operations of these buildings, and it's the real reason why we're here. So I want to provide him some time.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Hilber. I'm with Clearwater Living. I'm here predominantly to talk about the life of a resident in an assisted living community. Our typical resident is somewhere between, our average is approximately 82 in our portfolio in the Western United States. According to a recent report, 84 to 85 is now the average age. Average resident stays in place. Our history is somewhere around 17 months. The report we just read said 22 months. And these are folks that need help, generally speaking, with 2 or more daily needs. That could be continence issues, dining issues, dressing, med management. There's an entire assortment of issues. So this individual that lives in one of our communities is generally spends the majority of their waking hours in our community. They spend the majority of their day and week in our community. And so we try to provide as much social space as we can for each one of our residents. Social space is important as it continues to drive the mental well-being of all of us, including our residents. In this particular slide, we're just showing that nearly 30% of the site is usable open space. The reason that we have those central courtyards is because we want to be able to maintain line of sight to the majority of our residents the majority of the time. There are some spots where residents will be able to go with family or guests. Again, as I pointed out, assisted living and memory care age approximately 85. The goal is for residents, the original goal of having independent living units, which we are extremely disappointed aren't part of the revised project. The original plan was for an elderly member of our community to be able to age in place. Again, talking about the daily needs, whether that's personal care, 3 meals, housekeeping. We have folks on call 24/7. We have staff on site 24/7. And one of the other items that we do is a lot of health, fitness, and aquatic therapy. We want to keep our residents moving. At the end of the day, we want them out of their units, in a social environment, and being part of the community. In terms of need within Huntington Beach, this is something that we discussed a year ago and again now. There is an existing supply of approximately 463 units in 2025. If you look at the amount of difference, there's less than 850 units available to serve nearly 20,000 residents that are 75 plus. I think we're looking at a shortfall in year 2028 of 1,100 units. Again, within our area, there are 5 existing built between 1978 and 2019. There was one approved project that I don't believe has broken ground, hasn't found financing. And so existing supply plus pipeline of transactions, 848 units. You want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. Just very quickly, this project will deliver great benefits to the senior community in Huntington Beach. We also just want to recognize the fiscal impact to the city. The current property tax that this piece of land generates to the city is around $18,000. Once this project is complete, that tax will go to $225,000, which of course will continue into the future. And so if you value that at roughly 5%, that's a $4.5 million value to the city over the life of the project. And then the city development fees for this project are $3.5 million. So this project will generate $8 million of value to the city and also create jobs during construction and then the permanent jobs that are created to support the residents. Thanks for providing us time to speak. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for entertaining us. My name is Jonathan Bonwitz. I've been a resident of Brightwater in community since 2009, early 2009. I applaud the developer for modifying the project somewhat. I've been in sales most of my life, and I understand that you always ask for way more than what you really want on your first go-round, and then cut it down and try and convince people that it's good enough where it is. And it kind of feels to me like it's almost a bait and switch. This project as it stands, 215,000 square feet, 4-story tall, is just wrong on so many levels of our neighborhood. It's too massive in scope and size, and it's completely out of character for our neighborhood. Right across the street on Bolsa Street, you've got 1-story single-family residences and 2-story single-family residences right across the street there. With the 159 units this unit proposes, that equates to 57 units per acre. That's 63% denser than any of the surrounding complexes. All the other apartments you saw on that map previously there, they come in at 35 units per acre, excuse me. This is 57 units per acre. 57 units per acre, 35 units per acre. That's a 63% increase for this project. With the 104, I submitted my objection letter for the EIR. That's of record. So tonight I'm going to address the woefully under parking situation here. You've got 104 parking spaces right now. for this project. The original one had 189 parking spaces. So somehow we're missing 85 parking spaces. The first go around, the 5-story massive monolith there was way under parked at 189 spaces. Now they want to downsize it to 104. I have problems with that on a couple of issues here. This last slide said there's 110 employees that are going to support this facility. By my calculations, there's 3 restaurants, there's a swimming pool, you've got a simulated golf driving range there, you've got other amenities, nail salons, you've got kitchens, you've got cleanup people, you've got housekeepers, you've got nursing staff there. Okay, they're not officially nurses, but they're assisted care staff. You've got at least 40 full-time employees that are going to be using this facility. Where the heck are they going to park? There is no street parking in this particular corner area. No street parking on Warner Avenue. That leaves Bolsa Chica Street. If you've driven down Bolsa Chica Street, you'll realize it's mostly red curb there. There's
One more minute, please.
What? Okay, thanks. And so there's very little street parking there. On a sunny afternoon there, all the street is parked with people hiking the trails, so there's no available spillover parking here. My mom was in a facility for years, assisted living. My brother, my sister, and I visited on a daily basis with a couple of the grandkids, my children and my sister's kids there. At any given time, we had 2 or 3 of us there, with all driving separately there. They expect no visitors here. Where are the visitors going to park? This thing is way underparked, and I suggest and ask you to deny this based on that. Send them back to the drawing board and come back with something with more parking spaces that'll fit for this neighborhood. Thank you.
Please line up at both podiums and make sure to state your name prior to speaking. Thank you.
Hello, appreciate you guys having me here. My name is Grant Russell. Good evening, Chairperson Twinning and Planning Commissioners. I'm a proud resident of Huntington Beach, along with my wife and kids. In the years that we have lived here, we've seen the positive impact of economic development can have on our family. I believe the assisted living and memory care facility would have a positive impact on the economic development of the city and would revitalize an intersection that is in need of something new. I'm familiar with the project site and recognize the existing use as a tired office and retail center and doesn't support the future goals of Huntington Beach. With the future of office space uncertain, cities must look for creative land uses to repurpose those spaces while providing for the needs of the community, just like what is proposed here with the senior facility. I reviewed the changes that were made in direct response to the community feedback. They cut the story, they brought height into building code, increased setbacks, reduced the number of units, and removed independent living altogether. These are drastic changes to a project. Even with these changes, the project still serves Huntington Beach elderly community and fulfills a need to the city to provide them with high-quality elderly care. As an engineer in the consulting industry, I cover many different types of commercial developments, and I've had the opportunity to work on a few senior care facilities. Based on my personal experience, I know the critical support services and the infrastructure are to providing high-quality experience for the elderly care residents and their families when they visit. The size of these facilities is crucial to allowing employees to provide extensive 24/7 support for the residents' daily needs. I'll end by saying that this type of community will have a resounding positive impact on our community. I look forward to seeing it get built for the senior population. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Good evening, Commissioners, Planning Department staff, and fellow Huntington Beach residents. My name is Tom Dillman. I'm on the Board of Directors for Cabo Del Mar HOA, representing 288 homeowners, and I live in Huntington Beach. I'm here to talk about the facility. This first slide represents a future vision of Huntington Beach held by some people and some developers. However, the vast majority of the residents are against this, as well as 4 out of the 7 city council members who are against high-density development. Following slides will show why this needs to be done. This shows what the project will look like, but imagine it being 4/5 the height of the depiction in that picture. Very similar to what you see over the apartments over by Bella Terra. Please note that Bolsa Chica Street narrows down from 6 lanes to 2 on the south side of Warner Avenue. Now, there's a couple entrances on the Bolsa Chica Street, which is a recipe for a traffic nightmare. It's similar to what you'd see at the intersection of PCH and 2nd Street and Long Beach, if you ever drive down there. Just think what that's like in rush hour. Bear in mind that Bolsa Chica Street is a major access corridor for thousands of commuters that go on a daily basis to the 405 freeway. Has this been accounted for in terms of traffic studies? I don't think so. It'll also contribute to folks taking shortcuts through neighborhoods, as is happening up in LA. With only 106 parking spots planned, it'll cause an instant shortage, as has been pointed out earlier. Just ask the folks over at Morel Gardens. You see permit parking signs all around them, and people they had big problems parking at Home Depot and Big Lots until it got straightened out. Sorry. Now, this isn't the actual size of the project, as some people mistakenly thought, but it illustrates how out of place it is. I've written 10 posts on this subject on Nextdoor app, getting thousands of views and hundreds of comments over the last year. All those comments are against the 4 or 5 story project and are in favor of 2 or 3 stories or a different location. I can count on one hand the number of commenters who are in favor of Clearwater's 5-story or 4-story version. Remember that Nextdoor's views are from the community here in HB, not in LA or Pasadena or anything. These are local views of this that website, and anybody can see them. Just type in Tom D, and you'll see my post. This slide shows the closest ER to the proposed project. Studies show increased mortality, health complications for ambulance transports over 15 to 17 minutes. As you can see, that's 10 minutes one way in good traffic with the patient all set up and ready to go. I would say, in terms of urban planning, this is a no-brainer.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mr. Amory Hanson. I'm speaking tonight in opposition to the project at number 4952 Warner Avenue. Many residents have expressed unique concerns regarding this project, including the size of the project and its impact on the very close Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. I too share those concerns. Once again, I urge a no vote on the project at number 4952 Warner Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chase Preciado, and I'm here on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER respectfully requests that the Planning Commission decline to certify the EIR and instead revise and recirculate it before making any approvals related to this project. In addition to submitting comments on the original EIR, SAFER recently submitted written comments on the revised draft EIR. Despite submitting these comments within the stated public comment period, the final EIR that was just released does not include or respond to SAFER's comments. The city's failure to include and respond to SAFER's comments violates CEQA's procedural requirements. We raised a number of important issues in our written comments and are entitled to a written response per CEQA's directives. First, air quality expert Francis Offerman found that future residents of the project will face an elevated cancer risk from indoor air emissions of formaldehyde from the off-gassing of project building materials. Without mitigation, off-gassing of formaldehyde from the project will result in an excess cancer risk to future residents of 120 per million, which is 12 times higher than the South Coast Air Pollution Control District's threshold of significance. The EIR must be revised to analyze and mitigate this significant impact. Second, the EIR fails to properly analyze the project's energy impacts. CEQA requires cities to evaluate the feasibility of including renewable energy generation as part of new projects. This requirement is also consistent with the city's own general plan policy encouraging the use of solar energy systems. Yet, the EIR fails to address renewable options that could be incorporated into the project or the reason why any renewable option is not feasible. Failing to include this discussion violates CEQA. To conclude, SAFER requests the Commission decline to certify the EIR and instead revise the EIR to address our comments. Thank you.
I'm going to call the following speakers.
Thank
Ann
you.
Palmer, Perry Clitheroe, Brian Thines, apologies if I misspoke, Henry Good, Marlo Mole, George Macer, Brian Genovese, Allison Mayer, Adam Wood, and Becky L. Please come down and line up at each podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Villa. I know quite a few of you and have been involved in under the many things I do here within the city. As a longtime resident of the city, I'm very interested in what occurs here. I'm actually speaking in support of the Bolsa Chica senior living community. Having recently gone through the issues of having an elderly adult parent go through the process of going from one type of a complex to assisted living to something else, and having that adult go through, and every time they had to move, you had new people to learn, you had new friends to make. My dad was in the military. He was used to moving 12 months or every 18 months, but not at the latter part of his life. It made it so difficult for him. And I tried to do everything I could. Having people be able to live in a facility where they can age in place and keep their dignity, I think is something that a lot of the opposers keep forgetting. They're looking at the structures of this building, and they're not looking at the dignity of the individuals that will be staying there, that'll be living there. I strongly support this, and also as a Huntington Beach Chamber of Commerce board member, we've also submitted a letter of support for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Villa.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Perry Clitheroe, and I'm speaking today in support of the Bolsa Chica Senior Care Community. I presented for your consideration today, I think you guys have it up there, a chart of real home prices in the United States going back to 1890. I like this chart. I ran across it a couple years ago during my studies. I like it because it turns on its head the old common sense that housing always goes up in price. If you take a look at that chart, though it goes up and down, it stays relatively stable over time. That is, up until about 1995. That's when prices started going up. Something I'll point out, too, about this chart, it ends in 2020 at about 180. It starts at 100, it's up to about 180 as of 2020. Today, it's at 333. Housing prices, compared to what Americans historically have had to pay, is up 4 or 5 times what the historical average is. So I hope you guys take that into consideration when you're making decisions here, that we are facing a serious housing shortage. This crisis is an emergency. For seniors, it's a life or death emergency. We're worried about the cancer risk of people who are 85, and I'm sympathetic to that, but it pales in comparison to the risk of death they face in a single night on the streets. It pales in comparison to the risk even of moving every few months or every few years. At that age, not an easy thing. Economists have been studying the price rises in housing that started in the 1990s, and they've come up with a clear conclusion in their studies. This is the fault of thousands of local governments, each layering regulations on builders. We need to let the free market do its job here. They have looked at this location. They have decided the price is worth it. They believe they can make a profit off of it. We need to let them do that so that seniors can age in grace. We need to let a lot more people do that, because if we keep If thousands of cities all across this country continue to make it illegal, we aren't going to build. Housing crises are going to continue to skyrocket. We are going to continue to see people fleeing to Arizona, to Nevada, to Texas. Many are leaving the country even. And I worry about what the effects are of, well, this is what is wrong with the economy today, is that housing is, well, it's illegal. So please approve this project and let the free market decide. If the project sucks, they'll lose a bunch of money. You can enjoy that. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Clitheroe.
Good evening, Commissioners. Cheryl here, a 40-year resident of Huntington Beach, and I'm the 75-plus people. Question: why does the city spend time and money reviewing zoning, population trends, emergency services, traffic flow, infrastructure, and et cetera, to create a general plan if non-resident city planning personnel consistently let developers ignore that plan? The developers who come to our city don't have any inherent right to develop anything, and yet it seems that frequently the planning department forgets that they work for us, the tax-paying residents who want the general plan adhered to in most cases. So the Bolsa Chica Senior Care Facility is here again. While the developer has made some very welcomed, commendable, and appreciated revisions to their ambitious initial proposal, there are still several problems that have not been addressed, and I have 4 points. I hope I can get through them. Number one, the building height is still 1.5 floors higher than anything around this neighborhood. It needs to be 3 stories. We do not want a beach or integer boulevard monstrosity here at Bolsa Chica and Warner, period. Number two, the developer's report falsely says on page 6.3 that there is adequate infrastructure at this location. That is not true. I live 3 blocks from this corner, and I didn't get any notices. And we have had frequent power outages, both planned and unplanned cutoffs. And I often have to reboot my microwave, check my refrigerator and pool equipment, etc. Edison has sent out multiple notices in the past 2 years. A couple of weeks ago, the entire Ralph Center and stores had a power outage for about 8 hours, and the residential area south of Warner was also involved. This proposal is a type that requires 24/7 utility usage for activities, vital services, equipment, for life-threatening emergencies that are very different than the existing daytime-only commercial and residential activity. Yet this report says nothing of the city requiring grid upgrades, additional electrical lines, or generators, etc., to mitigate possible electrical outages for the existing surrounding residences and businesses. The city should require this of all developers for the benefit of us, the tax-paying residents. All is not okay at this location just because the developer says so. Number 3, who says that Huntington Beach has such an aging population that must live here, must stay here, and we must have senior facilities built here? On page 5.19, the developer states that the city's goal, can I finish this?
Yeah, go ahead.
The city's goal is to, quote, produce as many senior housing units as possible. Is that really true? Is that statement misleading? We don't want that at all costs, detriment to the existing residents. So right now, there are 2 senior facilities within 3 miles of this proposal. How many others are in the city?
Thank you. Thank you. We got to move on. Thank you there very much.
Hi. I am Palmer. I'm speaking on agenda item, I believe, 24-598, which is amendment number 21-004. That is the Bolsa Chica Warner project. It does look marginally better than the plan that was previously proposed. However, it still wants a specific plan, not just a zoning text amendment, and it is still full of exceptions. Some observations: if a specific plan is granted, it should only change those attributes of the general plan that are required to provide specialized facility. It should not change the density to the degree that this does, and various others, such as the height. If this is a memory care and assisted living facility, why do we need a bar? I don't quite understand that. Putting the fourth-story height to the rear makes it more appealing to the boulevard, but much more massive to nearby neighbors behind them. Setbacks are still, although improved, inadequate. And as somebody else said, if the plan was presented now, it would look reasonable, and a 30% reduction would be a great plan. But we're looking at what we have now. The requirement should be the same height restrictions as in the general plan, which would be 3 stories max. It sounded if the increased setback request was removed, if that was true, that might be unfortunate. It's still a massive development, and somebody just brought up the fact that they believe that more housing is going to lower prices. That isn't the case. They should do a study. In San Francisco, well, let's say in California, in the last several years, housing has gone up. The number of units available have gone up dramatically, and the price has gone up even more. So that's not the answer. The answer is to know your community, know what works, and stay with it. That's exactly what we need, and we need the Planning Commission and the planners to understand that we have a general plan, and that's the best we should do. We should not be slapping specific plans on everything that doesn't meet our requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brian Thenis, and I think Tom might have tipped you off. I oppose this project. You know, this is a big box apartment building, first of all. That's what it is. Convalescent facilities don't have 2,000 square foot units. And he said he only had 2,000 square foot units, but there's 3 1,900. I get a little more time because I get a part of a rebuttal here, right? There's 3 1,900 square foot units, 1 1,700 square foot unit, a 1,500, a 1,400, 5 1,300 square foot units, 2 1,200 square units, and 3,000 square foot units on the 4th floor. And so you don't need big units like that for a convalescent facility, and the city knows that. You know, this project is almost double the density of the surrounding properties. They're 24 to 35 units per acre. And they don't include restaurants, right? So that makes this project even that much more dense. It's proposing 57 units per acre plus a restaurant and the bar. And the Planning Commission said, hey, you need a specific plan. Well, CG zoning allows for convalescent care. But they said, hey, you need a specific plan. Well, the city policy for land use development says ensure new developments and projects are compatible, proportion, scale, and character to complement adjoining uses. This thing's double the size of anything around it. The surrounding zoning, RMH, requires 1,742 square feet of land, which would only allow 70 units. And this allowing to more than double the density of our surrounding zoning, this is going to pave the way where we're just going to be surrounded by big box apartments like that. All of our shopping centers are going to go away, and we're just going to be just full of these giant big box. You know, staff, this escapes me. If you ask for a specific plan, why did you only park it to convalescent? In 2015, the City Council revised the Beach and Edinger specific plans for 2 spaces per unit, plus for 1 or 2 unit apartments, and then 1 space for guest parking, and they didn't have a bar. I forgot the name of it. It's something lounge. They've already named the bar, by the way. And this project would require 398 parking spaces if we followed what the city said is, hey, this is what we got to consider for parking. This project only provides 106 spaces, and we think there's going to be 40 employees. That only leaves 66 spaces for 159 units. So I called around all of these assisted living facilities, and they said, oh, independent living's cool. I said, I'm 61 and I drive a car. Well, they told me when I called Huntington Terrace, they have a waiting list for a parking space, but they said Estella told me it's free.
You got two more minutes.
Please.
Yeah.
Estella said it's free to park on the streets. And I guess they must charge for parking on site. So on to Tom. The building will be 56 feet tall from the corner of Bolsa Chica and Edinger. It's set back It's set back 28 feet on the 4th floor, but the 4th floor is 14 feet tall, so you don't have to stand back very far. The photos they show you, you're laying on the street looking at the building. You know, you're going to be across the street. You can see the 4th floor, no problem at all. The big box, allowed by code, Walmart on his thing, 183,000 square feet. What does that require, Tom? I think it's about a 5-story parking structure. Well, all you've got is a parking structure. Clearwater, I only brought a little bit of homework, so I wasn't able to. He said this is overparked by any of their projects. Clearwater Tustin, by the way, Tustin reduced that project to less than half. I've submitted that information before, but they have 91 spaces for 100 units, so they're parked at 0.91 per space, so that's not true, Tom. And this is only 0.65 spaces per unit. And the shadow study, you're right, you got me on the setback there on Bolsa Chica. It is set back 28 feet, but it's not set back on the property line where it's most important, casting a shadow over the apartment buildings along the west property line. That is not set back, so my shadow study is accurate there. I will fix it, but I still think it's not right, Tom, because I was double the distance and I only added you're only adding 14 feet, so we'll double check on that. So, Commissioner Pellman, you said when Brightwater was built, we said this last year at the Planning Commission meeting, I wasn't here, I was out of town, that I had several friends live on Los Palos, and they were devastated when Brightwater was built, but eventually they became okay with it. What I'd like to remind you, this group, is that Brightwater was approved for 6,000 home sites in a marina, and it's only 355 on 68 acres of land.
Thank you,
which is
Mr.
7
Thames.
units
Thank you.
per acre. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of this project. I don't have any prepared comments other than my name is Henry Good, and I've been a resident since 1990 of Huntington Beach, raised my kids here. I'd like to finish my days here. I've watched over the past 5 years many of the people that moved in to the area with me have to leave the state. Both my in-laws are in Reno at senior facilities. I think that the developer has made significant changes to their plan. I would hope that you approve the changes and approve this. I would like to finish my days in a facility such as this, if not this, and I hope you'll allow that to occur. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Next speaker.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Marlo, and I would like to submit the following statement from the property owners who unfortunately could not be here tonight. We would like to share with you the status of the office and retail space currently on the property and why a commercial center like this does not work here anymore. As we have all witnessed since the pandemic, the office climate has changed. People are working from home and business owners are offering a different workplace structure. These new workplace options have caused buildings like this one to lay empty or close to empty. Today, the project is only about 45% occupied. This building also is approximately 50 years old. Brand new office buildings render older buildings non-competitive. Given the age and occupancy, the current state of the site is unsustainable. From the start, we, the owners, have thoughtfully considered what else could be done with this property. We were looking at uses that would be the least intense for the area, which is why we chose the elderly care option. Over the last 2 years, while processing this project, they have received several unsolicited offers from housing developers and have been exploring other options as well in the event a senior care facility is not approved. Other options include another commercial use, as well as a variety of housing options allowed under the current state legislation. These offers are for a variety of different uses and include some that are much more intense uses than a care facility. Senior care stood out for the owners because it was not only just that it was the less intense alternative, but most importantly, it would provide a need in the community, more than just housing. This project puts our community's elderly at the forefront. And they're excited about this particular project. The intention of both owners is to sell the property. Should this project not move forward, they will entertain the other offers. This current use is unsustainable and will not remain. Although they have other options, they still feel confident that the senior care facility is the best option for the site, and that they hope that you will agree and approve and vote, recommend to approve tonight. I also wanted to submit for the record a hard copy of the letters of support that we have received citywide to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next speaker. Go ahead. Oh.
Is it okay if I go now? Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Brian Genovese. Happy Tuesday. Good evening, Chair Twyman and esteemed commissioners and city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. I am a longtime resident of this area. My family's lived in Huntington Beach since the early 1960s, so we've seen quite a bit of change over that period of time, as you guys are well aware. There's a lot of things happening here. I work in the area. I'm a real estate agent in the area as well, too. And I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the senior care facility that's being proposed. This community would offer a way for seniors to remain in Huntington Beach, like Mr. Good pointed out tonight, and remain here and downsize their current home and you'll still live here in this great city of Huntington Beach. If you guys are aware, as the gentleman from Clearwater stated, 85 is their median age range or target age range. Currently, our residents here, we have a significant population from 75 to 85 years old here in Huntington Beach. Over the next 10 years, they're going to be 85 to 95. So that's going to hit this demographic significantly over the next 10 years. So to be proactive, I think this facility would take care of a lot of that need that's going to be happening over that next 10 years. This commercial use is appropriate for the repurposing of the site and will complement surrounding land uses. It meets all the requirements. A lot of the concerns have already been mitigated already, which you guys, I think, can take comfort in. I'd like to say, I like to make sure you guys stay focused on the project at hand, because as a planning commission, your job is to make sure this project meets the requirements. And once it does, your job is to pass it along to the city council. So let's stay focused on what's going on tonight, make sure you're doing your jobs, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us, and you guys are doing a great job already. So look forward to you guys approving Action A for us tonight, and thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Evening, Chair, Commission, and staff. Adam Wood. Although I work for the Building Industry Association, I'm here tonight as a 40-year resident of this city. As a 40-year resident, I got to say I'm taking a little offense to some of the things we've heard tonight from the opposition. I think it was laid out very clearly by the applicants at the beginning what this project is, what it'll accomplish. I think we saw a pretty strong stance against the private property rights, the development opportunity that belongs there. I think we all are members of this community. We know what Huntington Beach is. The harbor is getting older. We have an older demographic. We're looking for exciting opportunities and places to live. There's not a lot of those. This would be a phenomenal opportunity to bring that to that part of the city. And I think, there are study after study that show how important it is as you age to be able to stay in the community in which you are a part of. Again, this is that exact opportunity. So there are so many upsides. There's so much to be excited about in this project. It is something we desperately need as a city. And I hope we can all rally behind this and get this across the finish line, because it was devastating to see the cutback that's already been proposed to get us to where we are today. We cannot afford to lose another inch on this thing. Let's get it approved. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Planning Commission. My name is George Macer. I'm a newcomer to Huntington Beach. I'm a recently retired physician, and I recently moved into my retirement dream house overlooking Bolsa Chica in the Brightwater development. I'll be brief. Being a physician, I have considerable experience with retirement homes, assisted living homes, nursing homes, rehab centers. I'm very opposed to this project. No matter what the developer claims, the parking situation will be severely impacted, as Mr. Thien has pointed out. There will also be ambulance sirens at all hours of the day and night. That's a considerable disruption, which is not present now. The residents of Brightwater and the surrounding area do not deserve this nearly 50-foot monstrosity in their backyard. and with all its associated complications. I hope you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Becky L., and my family has owned property and lived in the area since the mid-50s. I actually attended 5th grade with one of the members of the panel. I'll just throw that out there. You guys can try to figure it out. But Bolsa Chica and Warner, this intersection, this neighborhood, is a gateway to one of our most unique and scenic resources, the wetlands. I have always felt so privileged to live in that neighborhood and enjoy its beauty, the sunsets, the breezes, the historic structures, and the fact that you're so close to the public access and walking trails. The complex that is proposed, once something like that is built and it blocks the sky, the breezes, it changes the whole makeup of the intersection. There is no undoing that for the rest of our lifetimes. As a city, I would think we would want to conserve these lovely little niches we have of scenic beauty. After all, that is what makes us unique and special, and it's what draws people to us. I quote, "While the revised plan somewhat reduces the original size, it is still far too tall and large in scale for the area and will tower over and dominate the nearby 2-story historic homes and buildings. I too question the size of the units. What senior memory care facility has units in excess of 2,000 square feet? That is just makes absolutely no sense. 4 restaurants, I understand that. So my property is directly across from the proposed complex. I urge you to vote for another revision. I agree that senior living would be a good use of that space, but not if it destroys that whole gateway, the whole ambiance of that area that leads up to some of the most lovely neighborhoods in our city. Let's move forward in a way that doesn't destroy the unique gems that we have, that we have been fortunate enough to inherit, or we have come here because of those lovely spaces. And I do urge you to vote no on the scale of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Save the best for last. Good evening, committee members and my fellow Huntington Beach residents. I'm not speaking from a piece of paper, I'm speaking from my heart. My name is Allison Meyer, and I live in the Tierra de la Pacifica, which is 1 block from where this proposed project is going to be built. I vehemently oppose the project, not just because of the size, but because many people don't realize that it's not a skilled senior facility, that it's more like a luxury care, that it's more like a country club for seniors. When our seniors of Huntington Beach moved here 85 years ago, the properties they bought were about $25,000, $35,000, or $50,000. The price of living at one of these care homes, they say, is between $6,000 and $10,000 a month. After 1 year, you're spending $120,000. I don't know how many percentage of Huntington Beach seniors can afford that. I also agree with the young lady before me that aesthetically, it's not a pretty building. The density of that area, especially the northwest area across the street, is densely populated with apartments, condos, so much traffic, especially during the summer. And the 24-hour care, where's everybody going to park, especially the employees, the visitors? It's just not a good idea for our area. So I hope you consider having it put somewhere else in town. I've lived here for 30 years, and I love this city, and I don't want this to be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
We have no additional speakers signed up.
Okay. Well, we will now close public comments. Planning commissioners will now deliberate this item. Who has questions? Let's see here. Stand by. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, let's start with Commissioner Kennedy.
If Mr. Lawless could come back down here for just a moment, I'd appreciate it. There was one slide on the shade study that you referenced that the fourth floor would not cast a shadow based on the setback. But looking at the plan, it looked like the third rooftop was a parallel line, but on the shade study, unless I saw it wrong, I thought the perimeter was outlining what would have been more in line with the fourth story. So if we could take a look at, I just want to make sure I saw what I saw.
Yeah, sure. So, Commissioner, the red outline is reflective of the shade study and the maximum shade that the structure produces. That's a reflection of the third story. The shading that you see here is a reflection of the fourth. We're effectively shading a portion of the structure itself. Does that answer your question?
Yes, so how would the sun that's on the left side of that building cast that shadow in red that's protruding farther than the rooftop shadow when the sun's in the same spot?
I'm trying to understand your question. I'm also not a shade expert.
Well, so can we see the frontal elevation, if it would be looking at the left side of that building? I don't know the directional justification because I don't know if that's directionally correct. The front view of it from the street. Mm-hmm. The one that didn't show the fourth floor because of the setback.
Yeah, that's probably one of the axons. I can do my best to try to explain if you want to pull up slide 6 potentially. Sure. With the caveat that this is beyond my purview of expertise, and we're happy to provide more information after I attempt to provide you an answer. The location of the sun shown in the shade studies is on the lowest sun portion of the year. That's attempting to show the worst case scenario of where the sun might be located.
Speak up, please.
Okay. And as you might know, the western portion of the site is effectively on the other side of the building. We're good on that. So the location of the sun is going to be on the other side of the building at the worst case scenario. Therefore, if the sun is basically on the other side of the building, and this is only, call it 10 feet tall, it's only able to cast a shadow of reflection of 10 feet onto this building. Whereas this massing continues throughout the entire building. And therefore this is what's casting the shadow.
Okay, what about when the sun's on that side? I mean, what direction is that facing right there?
This is looking east.
Looking east. So that's the morning sun as it rises. It's facing east.
This way? Sure.
Okay, so when it's setting, will it not then reverse the shadow from the fourth story and protrude that out?
Correct. The study that is shown is when the sun is setting.
Well, it doesn't set in the east. I mean, if that's facing east, the sun isn't setting.
Sorry, you're not hearing me. The sun is setting in the west. The sun is located over here. The shade study is showing the sun being on the western portion and the shadow being cast primarily by this location, the third story. Based on the location of the sun at that time, this fourth story only being 10 feet tall simply casts a shadow onto the roof of this building. It doesn't extend because that massing is not large enough to create a shadow.
Okay, can you go back to the perimeter slide? Showing in the red line. No, I see it. No, yeah.
If I may just kind of supplement the clarification discussion that we're having, we have the winter solstice exhibit on the left and the summer solstice exhibit on the right. Commissioner Kennedy, you had brought up the red line. I just want to be clear for the members of the audience as well as the commission itself that the red line represents a 2 p.m. exhibit of the shadows based on the proportions of the proposed project. There's also on the corresponding side, the opposite corresponding side, a 10 a.m. Maximum limit that's outlined in blue. And so the shade and shadow exhibits that were provided to the city by the applicant are exemplary of the maximums that are anticipated during the greatest extent of shadow based on the sun's movements across and over the subject site. So it's really a comparison of showing a winter solstice when the sun generally appears lower. You may have longer shadows. That's why the winter solstice exhibit is provided. And then correspondingly in the summer solstice, when the sun is higher in the sky, you may have shorter ones. So what they're trying to exemplify is from a massing perspective, how either a rising or setting sun, but also a 10 a.m. and a 2 p.m. sun would appear on the site. So it's really kind of a spectrum of a potential impact that they're trying to describe here.
Thank you.
Can we stick on this since we're on the subject? Sorry, do you have?
No,
any more?
go ahead.
Just does, I mean, I think I can see it, but does the shadow study impact any? Does it go onto any private property, or is it all within the public right of way?
Based on these shadow studies, there is a encroachment of the morning sun on the western property line that's shared with the apartment complex. That extension is over a portion of the property that currently contains covered parking areas.
Is that the carports to the west?
Yes, it would be the carports. And then correspondingly, the red extends simply only into the public right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
You better raise your hand because it's not showing up on my computer. Anybody have any other questions? Commissioner Wood.
Thank you again for the applicant, if you don't mind. Do any of these units have kitchens or kitchenettes?
Yes.
All of them or some?
Not all, no.
Okay, just the larger ones, I would assume.
Correct.
Out of the percentage of people who are going to live here, how many of them really are going to, basically rely on the dining services in the facility?
The overwhelming majority of the residents utilize the dining services 3 times a day. To address the remarks that were made about some of these larger units, from a perspective of a new resident, when you're touring a potential assisted living individual who's moving out of their large home, they tend to prefer a place that feels like home and not just a box with a bed. And so the intent of some of these larger units, and even with kitchens that may never get used, is to feel a bit more like home. And maybe once or twice a year, their kids come over and they have some takeout in the kitchen. That's the intent. But it's a feeling of home, and it's to rent the units. I mean, that's what folks want to see.
Okay, thank you. In terms of other facilities that the operator has, out of those current facilities, have you had any that have become economically infeasible?
Christopher, you're welcome to address that question. I think in today's environment, there's a number of sites that are entitled to be built that are not currently being built, either because of the cost to build them or interest rates. I think your question, though, is after being constructed, have there been failures of assets? And you're welcome to.
No, we've not had any assets that have failed economically.
Okay. And once you get to the building final and you get your state certifications, do those certifications lock you into how you can operate that facility?
If we're going to remain in compliance with the state rules, yes.
So switching it to apartments is not really feasible?
It's not built as an apartment community, so I don't know how it would be feasible to convert it into an apartment community. So I'm not sure the zoning requirement that we're looking for, I think, would be out of compliance with an apartment building. That's why we're moving forward with a assisted living community.
Okay, thank you. And a couple of questions for staff.
Certainly, please go ahead, Commissioner.
Hey, Christopher, can you stay down there for a second? I have a question for you after Commissioner.
So we've talked a lot about the need for the specific plan and the change of zone from commercial general to mixed use. And I think in discussions that you and I have had, primarily this is all being driven by the FAR, is that correct?
That would be one aspect of the specific plan that is unique and would deviate from a CG designation, yes. The other would be a parking rate that's applicable to the proposed facility.
But all other development standards in the CG zone are being met by the specific plan?
They would be.
Okay. And then final question is, once the facility has opened and they have a CUP in place, are there any routine inspections by the city in terms of how they're functioning and how they're operating?
My experience in community development is usually related to construction and final occupancy, but as the applicant has explained, they will be obtaining a state license for the operation. So in my kind of general understanding, they would be subject to state inspections, but also prior to occupancy, I believe our fire department would also have to inspect and approve them. I'm not sure if that's a regular inspection. My associate Steve Eros with the fire department might be able to clarify.
So this facility, as their occupancy classification, would be required an annual inspection. But as far as your question as what their scope is, their use is, they're licensed with the state. Anytime they deviate from the types of patients they have, the state does require them to renew their license, which would trigger another fire clearance inspection. So anytime they get their licenses renewed, we do an inspection.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have for now.
Yeah, Christopher, can you just explain, somebody had mentioned your Tustin location had a parking rate of 0.92 and Bolsa Chica is going to be 0.61, I believe what you said. What's the discrepancy between the two places? What's different about Tustin than Bolsa Chica?
First and foremost, we don't own the land in Tustin. That is on a ground lease. Secondly, we inherited that project from the Archdiocese of Southern California of Orange County. And so most of the planning that went into that was done before we ever stepped in to actually complete the construction. It's also 7.5 acres. Okay. And that's what was planned when we picked it up.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Adam.
Yeah, Christopher, you can stay up there. I have a question for you. There was quite a few number of comments, mostly on the form letter, speaking to hazardous waste concerns and potential for, I actually didn't understand the comment, but I at least would like to ask the question. From a hazardous waste perspective, are there rules, are there requirements? Is it kind of a free-for-all inside the building, or do you have to maintain and follow certain laws?
We have to follow all local and state ordinances as it relates to disposal of any medical waste.
Okay, and have you had any at your other facilities? Has this been an issue or concern to you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question for staff again, for Hayden. Hayden, I kind of want to go through a little bit on, Merrill Gardens was a general plan amendment, correct?
Yes, that included a general plan amendment.
And that increased the FAR from 0.35 to 1, is that correct? Or something along that lines?
Yes, it did.
So if Merrill Gardens was to financially go under, does that general plan zoning or amendment stick with the land? So could somebody come in and do something consistent with the updated zoning on that at the 1.0 FAR?
So the general plan amendment would run with the land as an approved entitlement. What is unique to Merrill Gardens is that the approval of the convalescent facility, although entitled, didn't constitute a zoning map amendment, as it was just a CUP under the existing commercial office zoning. So that would mean that there's less restriction on a future use on that site than there would be on the subject site.
Okay, and on the subject site, because it's a specific plan, if it went under, could it be repurposed for anything it wants, or would it be under a tighter control because it's under a specific plan? I'm trying to understand the difference between Merrill Gardens and the proposed project.
Sure. So with the proposed zoning text amendment that would establish the specific plan, any use other than a convalescent facility as approved under that specific plan would require an entirely new request for a zoning text amendment. That could either be to amend or replace the specific plan, or it could be to revert the specific plan designation to something else.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay, anybody else? Commissioner Kennedy.
Some questions here. So in hearing what Commissioner Adam just said regarding the comparison with Merrill Garden, and I think you said it did not require the zoning text amendment because it met the FAR and the parking. It conformed, is that correct?
That project specifically conformed with the code requirements of the time. Just for reference, it was a 2010 project. And so while the council did approve the general plan amendment for the greater FAR, there was also a parking study for Merrill Gardens that applied basically the equivalent of a 0.33 per bed parking rate for that project, as opposed to the 0.65 per unit parking rate that's proposed on this specific plan. So it was less parking on a comparison basis between Merrill Gardens and the subject site.
Okay. I don't know how many more comments or questions we have, I guess, just in case this is the last one. I mean, I do commend you guys for really trying to work towards a solution. You know, the one gentleman, Mr. Genovese, up there said that, you know, do your job. From my perspective, my job is to basically rule based on the general land use plan that's in effect. So although he said it met all the requirements, it actually didn't, because this is zoned commercial general. So, you know, my perspective is what you allow, you encourage. And I just, again, you've heard me say before, I may be in the minority, but this, in my opinion, sets the wrong precedent for developers. If this had the proper zoning, or if you had the FAR and the parking, it sounds like you could build it there. But I understand the FAR is needed because you would lose 19,000 square feet of living space, and it may not pencil monetarily, but that might be a decision you may need to make. But with all that said, I do appreciate, from my perspective, the fact that you did work to come to a solution. But my underlying responsibility, in my opinion, as a planning commissioner, is this is, you know, there's too many asks. This doesn't meet the zoning in its current form. So, you know, I will be in opposition of this, but I do appreciate you guys' effort, and thank you for that.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Chair Twining. I know we received a letter from SAFER, so I wanted to, at the very least, ensure that we provide some sort of feedback with related to that. I know there was some concerns in the letter with regards to cancer-causing chemicals and stuff like that. So, please.
Commissioner Rodriguez, we did receive a comment during the draft EIR comment period, as well as a follow-up letter that you received, I believe, yesterday from the organization SAFER. Our CEQA consultant, in consultation with staff, has prepared a response to that. We did circulate that to the commission prior to the hearing for your review and consideration, and as well it will be included in the record for the RTC of the draft final EIR. So suffice it to say, we have, I believe, appropriately responded. It is in the public record for that review, and you know, subject to the action of the Planning Commission tonight, it could be forwarded to City Council.
Okay.
One more question.
Oh, go
Follow-up
ahead.
question, sorry. My understanding too is that this organization has also sent letters to other cities. Do you know if those letters that were sent to other cities, were they successful in stopping a project or in similarity?
Unfortunately, I don't have direct experience with other organizations, but I at least tangentially know that SAFER has been involved throughout California, and they do express similar concerns with developments all across the state. So we've done our best to address their concerns within the context of this project, just meeting our obligation in that forum.
And then I wanted to follow up, if you could show again, I really appreciate the applicant doing the chart that shows the current versus the original versus the modification. I think that really shows how much, as Commissioner Kennedy was mentioning, how much of the project scope has definitely decreased. I'm going to stick to my original comments myself from the original project, that facilities tailored to seniors are in great demand, and they're only going to continue to grow. And so I'm going to be supporting this project just because I supported the original project, and this is in much smaller, like the applicant mentioned, 30% smaller compared to the original one. And so I really hope that, I don't know if my colleagues have some additional comments, but I've decided to support the project, and I think it's imperative that we see in the chart how much it has decreased in scope, and how much the need in the community is going to be with regards to seniors and senior facilities in the future. So thank you for that.
I too, like Commissioner Rodriguez and Commissioner Kennedy to a certain extent, I really appreciate what the developer and the operator have done here. I would say coming halfway to where the residents wanted this to be, cutting off a story and going down to 4 stories and basically cutting a third out of the project. I also supported this project a year ago, and I like what you guys have done. I like what I've heard, but I also hear the residents, and so really do have to weigh everything that's been presented to us here. I unfortunately was not able to read the report that was sent to us, to the commissioners, at 4:15 this afternoon while I was at an urgent care getting tested for COVID, so that I didn't pass it on to people on either side of me like I did a year ago or a few months ago. So I was very concerned with that. So I have not read the letter from LSA. I know the SAFER was in our package. I read some of that, but I really think I need to read the whole thing. So I won't be prepared to render a vote on this tonight. And so I don't know what the other commissioners feel, but I think I need a little bit of time.
I'd like to support Chair Twining's position on needing more time to look at the EIR. I too was not aware of it until after 4 o'clock today, and I know it's a 30-page document at least. And I think that to do my due diligence to look at that and be very thoughtful in in whatever decision I decide on this project. The other thing is that I think there was Mr. Thines, I think that's how you pronounce, yes. You had asked to meet with me or have a phone call, and my husband's been in the hospital, and so he's better and at home, and so I would like the opportunity to still talk with you, and I think at least I would like to support a motion if Chair Twining is in support of continuing this to date uncertain until we kind of look at that report and I have the opportunity to talk to you. And just to let you know, Mr. Thines, when I made this statement prior about people living on Los Patos. My husband's partner lived on Los Patos, and I can tell you, I have 2 other friends that live on that street, and they were adamantly opposed to having the Brightwater built. And at that time, I didn't know it was going to be Brightwater. They had envisioned a school being built because our enrollment was over 10,500 at the time, and it kind of, you just have to do what's right. And I promise you, whatever my decision is, you may or may not like it one way or the other, the developer's you, but I'm going to try and do the right thing. And my husband's partner actually does like the Brightwater. So, okay. So anyway, thank you for your comments, and thank you for asking to reach out to me. Okay. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Chair, sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
We wanted to offer the commission a summary from LSA of the memo that was prepared, in case that's helpful for you to make a decision tonight, if you would like.
I mean, I'd like to read the whole thing again. Compare the safer letter with the LSA. So I don't think a summary is going to do me that well right now. And plus, I'm a slow reader. No, I'm not. I don't want to keep everybody here all night while I'm trying to compare the two reports. So, I mean, I'm willing to not go date uncertain. I mean, we could do it on the 24th, which is my birthday, but I would happily do it on the 24th of September or the first meeting in November. I don't have to wait very long. It's not going to take me, that long to read it. So, but it's really up to my companions, my cohorts up here, if they would support that motion. And
I would.
We don't have to go date uncertain. We can pick a date and do it. So, you want to propose a date, anybody, or?
I would like to do, I would like to make a motion to date uncertain to push this meeting out. And the reason why I don't want to name a particular date is that I don't know what questions I'm going to have, or what I'm going to need, and any additional work for staff. So that's why I would ask for date uncertain. So that's my motion.
To be fair to all sides, I would second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a vote.
As soon as Tracy voted, my box lit up too. I'm not sure if my vote went through. It's just like...
Mine's not working again. Just saying.
Commissioner Wood, did you also vote? Okay.
I voted yes.
You're voting yay? Okay.
Yeah, it's not working.
So we have 3 ayes, 3 nays, and Commissioner Acosta Galvan is absent.
Okay, so tie vote, the motion fails.
Okay. So I guess you better...
Can I ask Commissioner, or Mr. Ramos, so yesterday when we met, because there was going to be 6, I asked you that question if it ever came to a vote. It was a tie with no underlying ruling. Typically, if there's an underlying ruling, that would be the decider whether it's a fail or not. Did you look into that, and you specifically found out that a 3-3 tie with no underlying recommendation is a fail?
Yeah, Connor and I had a discussion about this question, and in a tie vote, the options are the applicant can appeal to City Council, or they can ask for a continuance and have the Planning Commission consider this project when we have the 7 commissioners.
Well, this isn't about going to City Council, but that type of vote that would be appealed would have been based on a tie vote with an underlying recommendation. No?
No.
Just any tie vote?
Correct.
Why would you have to appeal a tie vote on a suspense?
They can appeal it, or they can ask the commission to continue it to another date, and perhaps there might be 7 commissioners at that meeting.
No, I understand that. Okay.
Can I have a follow-up question then, Mr. Ramos? If we just had a 3-3 vote here, if we were to make a motion on the project and we got another 3-3 vote, you're saying the applicant could come up here and request a continuation after that vote, and we could re-vote to give them a continuation? Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct, yeah. Again, they can either appeal to city council, or they can ask the commission to continue it to another date, a date certain, hopefully, so we don't have to renotice, and hopefully there will be 7 commissioners at that meeting, or perhaps 5.
Isn't that what I just did, was try to continue it to 2 weeks? Wasn't that what the date and uncertain?
Yeah.
Can we put a date on it and make it 2 weeks from today? Or if not, I'm not ready to say yes on it. I very much appreciate what the developer has done here, and I think they did a great job. But I want to read LSA's and Safer's letters. I mean, it's as simple as that. I got it at 4:15 this afternoon, and I was in no place I could read it. And one thing I was warned about before when I came on the Planning Commission was to read everything. So I want to read it. And I don't know if it was 35 or 70 pages, but it was a lot.
Chair, yes, in response to your question, you can also make another motion. We could also do another vote if your motion changes from the uncertain date and you make a motion to a certain date.
Okay. Well, then I'd like to make a motion for a certain date of what's the second Tuesday in November? I don't have my calendar out here. October, sorry.
Of October, okay, so the
Yeah,
second meeting in September is the 24th.
Is there a reason not to do the 24th?
We can do that. I'm good with the 24th. I can read it
the
by
safer
then.
letter will probably
Yeah.
take you about 5 minutes.
Okay. So I like to make a motion to just push this back to September 24th, and that gives me a chance to read all the letters.
Does the applicant have comment on this? Sorry, Chair.
If you'd like the applicant to opine before
That's
you make your
fine.
motion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if we're permitted to comment, we would like to be back here as soon as possible. So we'd request a special session within a week's time, but if you're saying the regularly scheduled meeting within 2 weeks, so be it.
I'm good with either. I just want to
If we can
read
be back
it.
here next week, we would appreciate that.
Okay. Okay. Let's do it 2 weeks from today, because a lot of people doesn't give them enough time. So September 24th, back here. We'll notice it. We might even do it earlier in the evening to get it, since it's going to be a special meeting. So we'll calendar it. Doesn't necessarily have to be 6 p.m.
Chair, the 24th is a regular meeting, and if you continue it to a date certain, we don't need to renotice.
Okay. All right. Can we change the time?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, we won't have time to renotice.
Okay. So it's got to be 6 p.m. Okay. Unless we do a special.
Well, the 24th won't work because we won't have time to renotice. So 6 p.m. regular meeting would work.
Okay, that's as soon as we can do it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I make the motion that we renotice or review this again on continue it to September 24th, 6 p.m. at our regular meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a comment to mention before we vote, if that's okay. Great, thank you. So oftentimes we're asked why things cost so much and why they take longer than expected. And I really wasn't planning on talking about this, but nobody really asked questions about the LSA to our consultant here, and I did. And the letter from the consultant, the response, is actually 4 pages. The attachment was already included in our packet. I read it. That was posted, I think, with the original packet, if I'm not mistaken, Hayden?
It was in, that comment letter had been submitted during the public review, but yes, it was a part of the agenda packet.
So we should have read it already, which I did, right? And then we received the response, the 4-page letter. So it's longer because it includes the original one plus the 4 pages of the response. Am I not correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So all we're doing is prolonging prolonging the project, then I understand. We didn't even give the consultant the ability to explain to us the summary. So I get it. I understand that we should read, and we at least in my perspective, I read the document before it came. I asked questions particular to that, and so I don't think we need an extension because we're just giving people that false hope, false sensitivity that the project is going to be delayed and delayed and delayed. And I think as planning commissioners, we're here to uphold what the zoning and the general plan is asking for, and obviously they are asking for the modification. I understand, sir. But if you look at that chart, and that's why I asked for that chart to be on there, we're staying within the 50 feet that the current height is allowable for commercial general. We're staying below the 10 feet of setbacks. We're actually doing 12 if you look at that. And so, in my opinion, I think when you look at everything and compare and contrast, I think the project overall is within what the current guidelines are. It's just not commercial general. It's mixed use. And so that's why I'm supporting the project, and I feel that I have to say something. But again, I respect everybody's opinion. We're all here to get along, and we're all here to make the best decision for the city. And I think in this situation, I just felt like I had to say something. So I won't be supporting the extension. I'm going to keep supporting the project as it is. And so I hope that my other fellow commissioners do that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. I just like to read everything, and I could get a summary because Ricky offered the summary. I don't have both of the letters, the LSA, which refutes, I guess, something that was in the SAFER, and I'd like to look at them side by side. And I would have done that if I didn't get it at 4:15 this afternoon. I would have done it, except I was sitting over at Hogue getting a
Yeah, no, I understand.
the test.
I understand. It's okay.
So that's the only reason. Go ahead.
I would also like to say that I guess you would say the mechanical posting of the meeting, I had difficulty because it wasn't posted as normal in my iPad until, was it today it was posted normally or something like that? You couldn't access it, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I didn't have a chance to read it until after tonight. So I am going to be supporting the motion, and that's the reason why I want to make sure I'm fully informed. Thank you.
If I could just comment on that as well. I would imagine the letter wasn't written at 4:14 and submitted at 4:15. So again, to be prudent, whether it's four sentences or 4 pages or 40 pages, the Community Development Department has a responsibility to provide the documents in a timely fashion. So as I tell my kids, your failure to plan is not my emergency. I was done with my underwriting. Butch was in the urgent care apparently. I spent all day, so I did not check. So late submissions are a bad practice, and I would not support it for that alone. And then thank you for Commissioner Rodriguez when he said, I'm here to uphold the zoning. What that tells me is a no vote, but apparently I've misread him. But it matches the 50 foot or less. It matches this, it matches that, but it doesn't match the FAR or the parking. So you can't just say, well, I'm close. It's either there or it isn't. With that said, I will support the vote to next meeting. Had you submitted the document in timely fashion, we would not be visiting this right now. I don't know what the holdup was, but, get them submitted.
Yeah, I got a comment on this. I too, like to Commissioner Rodriguez, I do support the sentiment he's sharing. I think the SAFER letter is kind of something that's used all over the state. I don't think it has much effect. LSA's response pretty much says so. But I certainly understand you want to read that for yourself. I get it. But coming back to Vice Chair Kennedy, I do think I don't think specific plans are a bad thing in this city. They've made some of the best best plans in the city are specific plans, including Brightwater, one of the best communities we have. So I don't want to, this specific plan is only there for a couple of small reasons. And this project's done a significant amount to reduce from the original project. And I don't want to give specific plans a bad rap. Almost all the people in this facility live in one. So I do have concerns about pushing this out for 2 more weeks, but there are 6 of us, so I think we're on a split vote on this. I do want to voice my appreciation for the applicant's revised project. I do have a different lens when it comes to next door and some of these things. I attended a end of summer block party in my neighborhood, and most of the neighbors know I serve on the planning commission, so I thought I was going to get beat up at this end of year party. But surprisingly, there's quite a number of younger families that are in our neighborhood. I'm kind of in the middle. There's not very many. We have quite a few elderlies, and then we have quite a few younger families. And I thought that I was just going to get similar to what I hear on the response comments, that this is a monstrosity and it's an apartment complex. But that's not the sentiment I got from the community that I live in. There was a few elderly folks who did not like the project, but the bulk of the families that have young kids and their parents aren't ready for these homes are supportive of senior housing and senior assisted living, knowing their parents are going to need it someday. So I just want to go on record that I am hugely supportive of assisted living facilities. My parents did not have this option when they were in Huntington Beach and hadn't moved to the Central Coast. So I just wanted to share that. I think we're kind of stuck here.
Yeah,
I
want to, obviously I want to read that. I'm not for the project. I'm not against the project. I'm willing to abstain because I can't make a decision one way or the other until I read it. But to move this process along, whichever way it's going to go, I'm not going to hold it up because I didn't get to read the letter. It's just I can't make a decision until I read the letter, and I read LSRs and SAFER.
If I may.
Go ahead. You may.
Thank you. A lot of residents came out to speak today. Obviously, we spent time on the presentation. Totally understand that there may be additional time to review LSA's 4-page response and the SAFER letter. Given it's only 8 p.m. and everyone is here, is it possible to take a 45-hour break, whatever is required to read the materials?
Sure. If everybody wants to stay. Probably won't take me an hour to read it if it's only 4 pages, but I do want to review SAFER's letter too. So,
I think Commissioner Pellman also wanted to meet with someone publicly, though.
Say that again?
Did you not want to meet with?
Yes, because my husband was hospitalized, and actually he's just turned the corner yesterday on getting better. So I would have to abstain at this point because of that. And I would hope that the other commissioners would support allowing me to have the extra time. So I'm just asking for that.
I understand that. And I forgot to go on record. I did have a meeting with Mr. Thenis, and I actually rather enjoyed it. We had a nice hour together, and I forgot to disclose that. So I think that opportunity, I understand that, Commissioner Pellman.
One more time.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner. I'm already confused where we're at. So
No confusion. At this point, I think all of those who have spoken about whether or not to continue it have good reasons for and against, and I wanted to thank the applicant for all the work they did to modify the project. I think that's very commendable. I think it does make a better project. But at the end of the day, I think everybody up here needs to be comfortable that they've had all the information in front of them. They're comfortable with it. They read it. They have no more questions. So this time around, I will be supporting the continuance.
Thank you.
I will as well.
Thank you.
We have that motion. We can vote on it now.
We do have a motion and a second, and voting is open. Commissioner Pellman, your vote is aye?
Yes, it doesn't work.
Not a problem. I'll look into that. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
it is 5 ayes. Commissioner Rodriguez is no, and Commissioner Acosta Galvan is absent. Motion carries. This item is continued to the September 24th Planning Commission meeting at 6 p.m.
Perfect.
Thank you.
If I could have done it earlier, I would have. All right. Okay. I was just going to leave. Okay, let's see. Next is a revised, wait a minute. Yeah, I got to go over here.
Next is Planning Commission comments.
Okay. Planning commissioners will now deliberate. Let's see, we already did that. So does any of the planning commissioners have any comments?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Commissioner Pellman.
First of all, I am honored that I am on the Historic Resources Board. It's been a wonderful experience for myself. I didn't realize all these things happened in Huntington Beach, and so they've educated me on a lot of, projects that they're doing, activities that they're doing with the community, making Huntington Beach, knitted together, so to say, that they come together on these things. And so just wanted to go over a couple of things that stuck out to me. Number one, I didn't know that we had a Cal State Fullerton Archives group, That was something that was very new to me. The other thing is that they have, regarding the plaques and signage, Carr Park, it's been voted to go forward on that, but they don't have funding assigned to it, so it's a date uncertain as to when that's going to happen. And one other historic thing was they were talking about demolition or demotions and whatever, but anyway, Arby's on Beach, it's not on Beach, it's actually on Edinger, and Beach is the cross street there. So there was quite a discussion about saving that Arby's, signage.
The sign.
Yeah. And I was, like, all these things you learn there. But anyway, it's a really good board. And anyway, the next thing I'd like to do is just kind of go over the next 3 months of what their activities are. It's like 7 or 8 things. In September, they have the Senior Citizens Month at the Senior Center, which is an active senior expo. The other thing that I believe it's already happened is the Civil War reenactment in Central Park.
Oh, we just did that.
Yeah. On Labor Day. And in October, they have the Huntington Beach Central Park Equestrian Competition and Arts Month, and I think the theme is sculpture. In November, it's a 2-to-1 plant sale at Shipley Nature Center. December is Howliday, so I pronounce it right, Howdy hike at Dog Park, and the Youth Shelter Winter Fundraiser Spotlight. Anyway, those are just some of the things, and starting in January, they'll start all over with their calendar. So anyway, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from any of the other commissioners?
I have
Rodriguez.
a brief comment. So I'd like to officially give notice to everybody that I will be leaving Huntington Beach. So my last day in Huntington Beach will be October 31st. I was able to purchase a home, so in Orange County still. It's been one of my dreams to own a home, so I finally pulled the trigger. And so, so thank you very much, and I look forward to the last couple weeks here.
Congratulations. What day are you moving?
So my last day will be October 31st. I move in on November 1st. So
Okay,
yeah.
great.
I'm going to do a little bit of a rehab project, and so, yeah.
Excellent. Congrats.
I might need some engineering and...
Yeah, go ahead. Give me a holler. All right, if there's no other comments from anybody, the meeting's adjourned. I'll see you guys on September 24th. Very special day, by the way. My birthday.